Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be talking about VR for sim racing specifically, and how it can be one of the very best experiences that you can ever have outside of being in a real car. Now, there are a lot of people out there who swear by VR and say that VR is one of the most amazing experiences that you can ever have in sim racing. And to be honest, I totally agree with that. I totally agree. VR was one of the things that hooked me in specifically into sim racing. When I had my first experience, I was blown away and I said, wow, how can I make this experience better? And one of the downfalls that I had with VR early on was motion sickness. For me, motion sickness, I suffered with travel sickness as a child, and VR brought that back out in me was motion sickness. So motion sickness is one of the biggest downfalls in VR. The comfort and ease of use can also be a bit of a pain. Comfort over time, especially hours of racing, you can start to feel some issues there. And ease of use issues, but they're getting better every day. So today we're going to discuss on how to get the very best experience in VR and how you can give your friends the best experience in VR as well, to help them enjoy this experience and enjoy sim racing at its most immersive. Let's get into it.
Okay, Trevor, are you ready? Watch for the lights.
So as we said, the number one issue with VR is motion sickness. Now this doesn't affect every person, and everyone's a little bit different with this issue. But for me, I had a lot of issues with motion sickness. Obviously from travel sickness was a bit of an issue. But what I learned over time is a little bit of the science behind how your brain actually works and how motion sickness works. And what your brain is trying to do and trying to receive and when you're being in VR, and how that translates to what's actually happening. All right, so let me explain that. So let's just think about our brain for our whole life. It has a full grasp on what's happening in the real world. Like when you're driving a normal car, for instance, and you're steering, your brain is telling your hands to steer. It is steering, you're feeling the sensations in the car, you're feeling the G-force of the car moving, and your brain is processing that, and that makes sense, right? So that helps your brain figure it out, and it doesn't have to compute anything, it doesn't have to create anything, it just knows that's where I'm turning, that's where I'm going, and that's what I'm feeling, right? It's a natural thing. So the problem with VR is that you're starting to bring movements in where your eyes are telling you one thing because it's all being processed through your eyes, but your body is experiencing something else, right? You're steering, but you're not feeling the motions of steering. Your body's not feeling the sensations, right? And what happens there is your brain has to create. It has to create something in its mind of it. There's something that doesn't add up here, and that confusion is what gives you the motion sickness. It's like trying to figure out what the hell is going on. This is an example of what I mean. So I used to get travel sickness really badly, right? And if I was in the passenger seat of someone's car and going on a trip, I would get severe nauseating travel sickness, right? But if I was doing that same trip driving, I was actually in the driver's seat, I was perfectly fine because my brain knew what was going to happen when I was on the road, when I was steering, the turns I was going to take, and when I was going to take them, right? So how do we translate what is going on in real life into VR? That is how we fix this problem. Now, the best way that I have found to try and remove this motion sickness, and to be honest, it helped me immensely, is creating haptic feedback in your simulator. Uh, Force feedback, having a realistic force feedback setting. Motion, having motion in your sim potentially. Also, have the feeling of the sensation of driving with the window down with fans. Now, let's dig into these a little bit more so I can just give you a bit of an understanding. So, number one, what helped me the most was having haptic feedback in my seat and having haptic feedback on my pedals, right? A quick explainer on how to do this roughly. There's a program called SimHub. I have a video created about creating immersion where you can put vibration speakers in your seat and also have vibration speakers in your pedals to give you those real world sensations of what the car's doing underneath you, what the car's doing under the pedals, especially in race cars, and what's happening underneath the car. So your brain doesn't have to process that. It gives it some feedback on what is going on. And then all of a sudden, it's not just your eyes telling you, you're getting feeling and sensation through your body. And number two is having a close to realistic force feedback setting. Having the correct force feedback settings can help your brain understand when the car is understeering, when the car is oversteering, when you're going over ripple strips or bumpy roads or sensations in the road or vibrations. And this helps your brain figure out what's happening underneath the car, but also to the car. So the bouncing around in your eyeballs is the same feeling you get through your body. Your brain doesn't have to work as hard or create anything. Number three, fans. Have fans on your face to increase airflow. This helped me a lot. This is probably one of the biggest tips that I could have for sim racing or VR just in general for any games. Fans definitely help the VR experience massively. Especially if you're driving an open wheel car, you get the sensation of moving is the biggest thing. Your brain then understands that I'm moving, there's something happening here, and it helps with the breathing so you don't hold your breath, so you've got airflow. But honestly, it's more just the sensation of that you're moving, even when you're not moving. So fans are a massive one. Definitely get a fan, even just a little USB fan or two. I've got 2 USB fans hooked up on my rig, and I can just switch them on when I'm in VR, and I feel automatically better. As soon as I switch them on, I feel much better. And it also helps with the heat of VR too, because you have a screen strapped to your face, so you can sweat and it heats up your head. So having fans on your face definitely helps. So get on the fans. Number 4 is having the right view settings. Very, very important. Setting yourself up correctly in the car when you're driving, that's essential, because if you're too far away from the steering wheel, or if you're too close to the steering wheel, or if you're a little bit left or a little bit right, you will feel motion sickness. Pretty much as your eyes, we're only used to seeing our field of view, and all of a sudden if you're out by a few centimeters on each side, you can feel the difference, and your brain's trying to create the difference about what's happening in your eyes compared to what your brain is processing. So make sure that you have your view settings correctly, that you're sitting in the right spot, you got your head in the right spot where your steering wheel is in your hands, you'll feel instantly better. And number 5, which is a small one, but the correct IPD. Now the IPD is the space between your eyes. How far is that gap? And in most VR headsets, you can actually adjust the lenses in and out to sit correctly over your eyes, so it's in a natural spot. Because if it's not in a natural spot, you could be slightly cross-eyed or slightly too far apart, and that can give you the sensation of headaches. It makes your eyes work harder, and will probably also contribute to motion sickness. So once you have all these settings in place, I can guarantee you that VR will feel much, much better for you. And it may even change the game. You may go to VR only for your races. which is a massive space saver if you have triple screens. And you may be able to fit a VR, a sim racing VR cockpit in a very small space. So be able to allow you to race. If you think you need a lot of space, you definitely don't when you're racing with VR. And honestly, you may find that you don't even need all of these components to enjoy VR and just to race in VR. I mean, everyone has a different tolerance to VR and the motion and the movement. Some people don't need anything. They can just jump in and race and be happy for hours. Lucky them. There is another thing that you could do, and this is a relatively expensive thing, but if you got the money, go for it, and that is motion. If you want to have a motion setup, you can move the actual seat and the whole rig that you're sitting in up and down, side to side, on angles, and get the full feel of what the car is doing underneath you. And that would seriously help VR and make it an amazing experience. I've only had a couple of goes on motion, once or twice in my life, and I never got to try it in VR, unfortunately, but I got to try it on triple screens. I didn't really enjoy it on triple screens, but I think in VR it would be absolutely mental and an awesome experience. So maybe one day we might get that far. But other than that, what I would say is that if you get these 4 or 5 things down pat to allow people to try in VR or use these settings yourself in VR, I think you'll really enjoy it. And it will hopefully get you over that motion sickness barrier. It can take time. It's not overnight fix. I reckon it's fixed my travel sickness issue by playing in VR. I no longer have travel sickness. My brain and my body has gotten used to it, so that's amazing. VR has fixed my travel sickness problem. But yeah, stick at it. Keep going, because once you try VR, it's very difficult to go back, even though I still enjoy my triple screens and I still enjoy VR as well. So feel free to shoot down in the comments some of the other tips and tricks that you have found that VR has helped, because let's help out the community and give them some tips on what you have found, because I think we all deserve to try VR at some stage in our life, and just to get that feeling, because you'll absolutely love it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe if you feel like it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.
Left side. Clear left. U4. 2 laps remaining. On your left.